Hi there, this is the FA Video Notes, training video number 6 on editing. Alright, once you've downloaded a file and entered it into your sets for E4, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to go through and evaluate it like an editor. And there are several different things that you're going to check for while you're doing that. Sometimes you can be going through and in your research you found a whole bunch of really cool documents. But when you've downloaded all of those, you're not quite sure which ones to use. So I'm going to give you some editorial pointers that will help with figuring out what to do. Alright, so some things to check for. Number one is the completeness of the file. Now in your research, at the very beginning of your research, one of the things that you should have done is when you were in the library, you should have checked for the basic number of pages for each book that you would have been acquiring. Okay? Now there are several different ways to do this, but we'll just take that one as the main thing. So the check for length. Now, if in your research, in your library research, you found that a certain book was supposed to be 500 pages long, and the book that you just acquired from the internet was 150 pages long, you can assume that what you have is not the complete actual document. So you're going to have to go back and look for that. So length would be one of the most basic things and the easiest things to fix, okay? So check for the length of the file. Sometimes I check the beginning and end of the file to make sure that it begins and ends the same way. If you have a huge difference in length and yet it begins and ends the same way, sometimes you would just check the format at that point. Was it a very large font in the book and a very small font in the internet? Those sorts of things. So check through it and make sure that you have the complete file. Compare the number of pages and chapters previously attained from the catalog search that you did at the very beginning of your research. Number two, check for errors. Now this is going to be primarily the proofer's job, but before you pass something on to the proofers, you want to make sure that it's okay. You know, if it's hugely, if there are tons and tons of errors, you don't even want to pass it on to the proofers because it won't do them any good. They're going to have to spend hours and hours on that they wouldn't have had to spend. So you're going to do a scanning proofread of a few pages. If you find 2 errors scanning 1 page or 4 errors scanning 2 pages, then note that down accordingly. If you find a lot more than 2 to 3 errors per page, then it's probably not worth keeping. So you either go and find a different version of the file or you discard that from your set. Okay, so scan and proofread 1 or 2 pages and take note of the number of errors. You will be taking note of the number of errors in the sets for E4 document. Okay. Then you will be checking, so we've checked for completeness of file, for errors, and then for the file formats used. Now there are several different basic file formats, each with their own difficulties and with their own strengths. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you some of the basic file formats that you can acquire from the internet. And none of these are particularly better than the other. The very best one is the Bible software format, or HTML. Tagged or HTML. Those two are the ones that are most useful to us. The scanned image is probably the least useful, and I'm going to show you why. Alright, so let's start out here in Project Gutenberg. Now, one of the things that we like about Gutenberg is that you can, they have each file in various formats. All of these are free, all of these are public domain, with very, very few exceptions. As you can see, they have 2 different HTML formats. Those are the ones that you're going to want to acquire. Okay, you can either click on Main Site and then just Control A once it's done loading, Control C, and then Control V once you get it into a WordPerfect format. This is already tagged. The other thing that you can do is you can go to Page, View Source. We'll take it a minute, but then what it'll bring up is the actual HTML sources. That's the very best that we can possibly have, okay? So if you acquire the HTML, and I showed you how to do that in one of the other videos, in the file acquisition video actually. Alright, so then the other one, if you go back here, so there are 2 different ways to do that. This one is zipped This one is not zipped. I would do the unzipped one because zipping, you're just going to have to unzip it, and then so it's just an extra step. The other thing is plain text. Sometimes they don't have these HTML ones on Gutenberg or other places. Let's look at the plain text and see what it is, okay? Look at that. It's very, very obvious that it's plain text. Unlike the other one that was formatted, the title was bolded, those sorts of things. This one is just vanilla text, okay? Now, we can use this. It's okay, but it is definitely not the best, okay? So that is plain text. They can do either one of those. Now, if you go down here, there are also other ones that you can use. Most of the time, it's better to use, especially on Gutenberg, the HTML and then do page source, okay? All right, now let's check to see what the scanned image is. Google Books is one of the biggest sources for scanned images. It's very easy to spot a scanned image. All it is they put a scanner right over the old book page. We can use this, but only if we absolutely have to, okay? This is a PDF file. If you were to download it, it would be in a PDF, unless you clicked here on the plain text version, and then it would bring you up. See, let's do that. Let's show you plain text. You're going to have to get to the point where the actual book is. See that? But as you can see, it's full of errors. It's homiletical. You know, it's definitely not a great way to go. We can definitely copy and paste all of this, but it's going to be full of errors. It's going to have weird formatting things. So this is a scanned image that has been translated into plain text is definitely not the way to go. You can download the PDF of the scanned image, but again, it's going to take so many hours on the proofing and the tagging side that it's probably not even worth having. So if you find a book that is this kind of scanned image and you really, really want it in your set, you can't find it anywhere else, then let your supervisor know and they can tell you if it's even worth having in the set. Okay?